First of all, welcome Medtronic to campus, and it has been such a an amazing interaction that we have built. And sometimes they say, right, you have to have the right people come together and find that magic, right? So that's what we are hoping. Is it's the first good step in like what we have a grand vision intentions in terms of how our students and our program at UTDallas Biomedical Engineering can help the enterprise that is and the various biomedical solutions that Medtronic puts out, right? So that's what we hope is going to be the end game. So very briefly, so the Department of Bioengineering, as we are called, even though our programs are biomedical engineering programs, the Department of Bioengineering at UT Dallas has the third largest bioengineering undergraduate student cohort in the country. And we achieved this in just about 10 years since our inception. We are now 11 years young, and really we serve not just North Texas, but students broadly from Texas and outside. We are the most gender equal department in our School of Engineering. So we have as close to the 50-50 male female split that we get. In our graduate space, we are over 60%, closer to 60% female. So it is more women higher women percentage ratio. We are number one in the country for the number of master's female graduates we have graduated over the last 10 years. And so by all metrics, we are growing, we are rising. And as our name says, the comets, we really are like the comets whizzing by. One of the big things we want to achieve, which is true for our field of biomedical engineering, is that connection with the industry. For more traditional engineering fields, that's better established. We understand this is true for the field of biomedical engineering, but more importantly, the opportunities. In the department, we have 6 major research areas. So those are biomechanics, bioelectronics devices, neural engineering, biomaterials, imaging, and computation and systems biology. Some bit of everything is generally integrated into biomedical devices, and Medtronic could be able to leverage most of the skills that we have. We have a very strong experientially based training in our undergraduate program. So we have very focused labs, lab experiences built into each year of the undergraduate program. So all of this makes our graduates hungry and ready to try things they have learned in the labs out in the real world, which is where a partnership and finding opportunities with Medtronic and companies like this would be big things for them. So that's the big buy. It's amazing. We have 40 people on the call. And with no further ado, Jessica, please take it away. We're so excited to have you on campus.
Awesome. That was a great introduction. I'm Jessica Jones. I'll do a quick intro slide here in a second, but I just want to say I echo our excitement to work with you guys. This is something that we are piloting, and I'm hoping in the 40 of you that are on here, one of you is going to kick off our first Dallas internship for our division, and that this will lead to a very long-term partnership with our company and your school. So just to give you a quick and fun introduction to myself, these are what we call me in a minute, although it's a little bit more than a minute. But it's just to kind of have fun and introduce who we are. I've been with Medtronic for 16 years. 8 of those years were in a division called Cardiac Rhythm Management, which you all probably know as the pacing division. And then 8 years in the division that I'm currently in, which is Cardiac Ablation Solutions. I currently am the National Senior Clinical Specialist Manager. And on the line, Alexis is who actually replaced me when I moved into this role 6 months ago. So just a little bit of my background on how I ended up with Medtronic. I graduated with a biology degree from Abilene, Texas. So this is all my stomping ground. So I love that it's here. I currently live in Dallas. I after graduation, went to a pacemaker school in Greenville, South Carolina, and then moved into a EP device clinic and then started working with Medtronic as a CS. And now I'm in leadership. Never thought that would happen, but I love it. Some fun facts about me that I love to talk about. And my favorite picture is, this is my now husband, but he's a huge Dallas Cowboys fan. I'm a huge Green Bay Packers fan. And everybody that knows me knows this is the picture I put up every year in playoffs, because usually the Packers eliminate the Cowboys and, you know, the house rumbles for a little bit. But this year the Cowboys eliminated themselves. So it's a little bit better for me. But I also love to travel. I'm a huge Dave Matthews Band fan, and so much so that my husband actually proposed to me at the Gorge Amphitheater at one of the concerts. So, and then I'm also a murderista. I have to put that on there because it is true. I like the ID channel and watch. I used to want to go into forensics, which hence led me into all that fun stuff. But some favorite quotes that I love is, you know, are you part of the problem or the solution? I truly believe that if you just come to me with a problem, you're just complaining. But you come to me with a problem and a solution, then we can go somewhere, we can work together. And then my other favorite quote is, if it doesn't challenge you, then you aren't growing. And I live by that, and so does my team. And then just to introduce you, my two little kids, the oldest is Logan, he's 12, and my youngest is Landry, and he's 8, and he is a spark plug. So I'm going to pass it over to Alexis so she can do the same and introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining the call. Yes, my name is Alexis Paycheck. I did take Jessica's position here for the Mountain West region, which includes Dallas. And we are very grateful and to have the pleasure of having this first wave and finding our first intern for cardiac ablation solutions. I have been in industry 25 years now. I've been with Medtronic about 6.5. I came from a nursing background and went to school later as I wanted to pursue some leadership goals. I was challenged by a manager, so here I am, and made it to be under Jessica's leadership. I am with a background of cardiac medical devices through one other company, through pacemakers and defibrillators that are all cardiac related. I've kind of been cardiac since I got out of nursing school, and that's kind of my passion. And that includes also arrhythmia mapping, so abnormal rhythms of the heart. We had a chance as a clinical representatives with the other company to map rhythms for a period of time as well. Here you can see my husband at the top. I have 2 beautiful daughters, 13 and 11. And my passion is definitely my faith and my friends and my family. As far as a few quotes that I have, that, you know, using your time and money wisely is critically important. Always do what's right no matter what, because you can never go wrong or have regret. And life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forward. I am a Dallas Cowboys fan, and that game was pretty painful. We watched it through the end. I sure like most. But 2 of my favorite things, I kind of went in another direction, even though I love Dateline. I love chocolate chip cookies and guacamole and chips. And I didn't do guacamole and chips until I moved to Texas, by the way, in 1998. Took me a little while. We have a couple amazing pets that we adopted, both of them. And then our family always does jump pictures. You can see there in the center. And then sentimental about family and friends, and also teammates. My team is very important to me. So grateful to be with Medtronic as well. That's about it. Thanks,
Awesome.
Jessica.
Thank you. So now that we've told you a little bit about ourselves, I'm just going to go into a little bit about Medtronic, and so that you understand why Alexis and I both, and many people that you meet at Medtronic, have been here as long as we have. I'm going to go over a little bit about us. Then I'm going to dive into the reason that all of you guys are on this call, and that's to hear a little bit about our internship role, and then what the clinical specialist role is that you hopefully will go into after graduation. And then I will hand it over to Alexis to discuss our product portfolio for our CAS division. And then we have some time for questions and answers. We've left about 3 spots where we will open it up to question and answers, so you don't have to hold them till the very end. But I'm also fine if you want to interrupt me and ask questions, because hearing myself yabber on for 30 minutes is not super exciting. So a little bit of who we are. It all begins with the Medtronic mission, which compels us to alleviate pain, restore health, and extend life. This is what we call our enduring North Star. It not only inspires and guides us, it defines who we are. And it continues with our new symbol. As you can see here, this is our newly created symbol and brand as of October. It's a modern interpretation of an image steeped in Medtronic history. It shows a figure striding ahead, signaling momentum towards restored health. It conveys the ultimate benefit our therapies deliver to patients, a chance to take a step towards full life. No matter how much we have grown, our work is always grounded in our mission. It's everything that drives what we do in each of us too. It's the foundation of everything we do. Our mission was developed in 1960, and it has 6 tenets covering a variety of important areas. But the first and most recognizable is our tenet number 1, that says we aim to contribute to human welfare by application of biomedical engineering to alleviate pain, restore health, and extend life. Not a word of this mission has changed since it was written by our founder, Earl Bakken, in 1960. More than a half a century later, the mission continues to serve as our ethical framework and an inspirational goal for our employees around the world. To meet the world's greatest healthcare challenges, we need innovation. We need the practical, determined, problem-solving mindset of an engineer, combined with the extraordinary expectations, actions, and results. That's our promise to you. It all started in 1949 with a big dream in a small garage in Minneapolis, Minnesota. This is a picture of our co-founder, Earl Bodkin. Just a few years later, after the garage creation, Earl created his first wearable battery-operated pacemaker. You can see in this picture in his left hand, he's holding his first ever implantable or a battery-operated pacemaker. It was a device that only paced one chamber of the heart. In his right hand, this is what we call the micro pacemaker. It's the smallest pacemaker in existence. It's an implantable pacemaker, and it also paces one chamber of the heart. So you can just see the drastic difference in the technology from when that was first created to today's technology. From the world's first battery-powered pacemaker to groundbreaking surgical robotics, our purpose remains the same. And these 3 pictures are representations of technology that we have all throughout Medtronic. The top picture is our stent. The middle is our surgical robotic arm. And then the bottom is actually a picture of what our technology is in our division, the Cryo Balloon, which we'll touch on a little bit later in the presentation. It inspires us to be extraordinary, not someday, but this day. So I wanted to give you a walk through our innovation, the history of innovation, because we've had huge, big milestones throughout Medtronic's history. As discussed on the last slide, it all started in Earl's garage in 1949 in Minnesota. In 1957, there was a power outage at a hospital in Minnesota. A young patient died because his pacemaker at that time relied on wall current for power. So when the power went out on Halloween night, so did his pacemaker. Inevitably, the patient passed away. Was there a question? Oh, sorry. As a result, Earl was asked to fix the problem, and that's how he created the first battery-operated external pacemaker in 1957. In 1960, Earl developed the first fully implantable pacemaker, but they also veered towards bankruptcy. He borrowed money that kept Medtronic going, but the bankruptcy near miss drove Bakken to develop the Medtronic mission. This mission helped the young company at that time stay focused on areas where it could truly help patients. And again, like I said earlier, that mission statement has not changed since he wrote it in 1960. In 1977, we introduced the Medtronic Hall mechanical heart valve. It's a tilt disc valve design, which was a significant development and was the choice of physicians globally for nearly a quarter of a century. In 1997, the Medtronic Foundation was established. What this is it's where we partner to improve health for underserved populations, as well as provide support for communities where Medtronic's employees live and give. We strive to be more than just a charitable entity, but rather an impact organization, where we measure our success in terms of the amount of impact that we make, as opposed to just the money that we give. In 1983, we expanded our portfolio into the neurostimulation area. That was as a result of building on science that we used for electrical stimulation to pace the heart. So they collaborated, Medtronic's engineers did, with French doctors, and they pioneered the first deep brain stimulation system to treat movement disorders. In 1999, we expanded our portfolio into spinal care. We made headlines by acquiring that spine leader, Sofamar Danek Group, to augment its growing in biologics business. In 2001, Medtronic bought diabetes market leader MiniMed. That was a team of biomedical engineers where they had developed a continuous glucose monitoring. So a key component of that was the closed loop diabetes management system. In doing this and creating this system, it took a major step towards enabling people with diabetes to better manage their diabetes. And if you know anybody with diabetes, more than likely they have something from our portfolio at Medtronic in the diabetes division. In 2002, Medtronic introduced the industry's first remote monitoring system. It's designed to securely transfer data from a patient's device at home via the internet back to the doctor's office. So that was a huge, and I think several of us on the call were around in 2002 in that division when that happened, and that was a big deal. It was pretty cool. In 2015, Medtronic completed the acquisition of Covidien. They purchased it for around $42 billion in cash and stock. At the time, Covidien ranked as the 8th largest device company. Doing this brought together the extensive capabilities of both companies and strengthened Medtronic's commitment to solve some of healthcare's greatest challenges. In 2016, the Micra, which was pictured, Earl was holding it, and it's also here pictured, which is the world's smallest pacemaker. And that was a result of a decade-long effort that was called deep miniaturization. So unlike most pacemakers that are placed in the patient's chest with leads running to the heart, the Micra is implanted directly in the patient's heart and does not have any leads. Also in 2016, our hybrid closed loop system for diabetes became the first FDA-approved device to automatically provide background insulin dosing 24 hours per day with people living with type 1 diabetes. In 2019, the Maser X Stealth system was launched. This system combines advanced surgical software with robotic guidance and navigation experience for a minimally invasive surgery. And then in 2020, all of us remember 2020 and COVID and what was going on. And as COVID swept the globe, we looked to our mission for guidance. In the first few months, we mobilized. We helped the heroes on the front line by increasing the ventilator production and then publicly sharing our portable ventilator design specs so that they could mass produce the ventilators and help everybody. What isn't on this slide but deserves mentioning is in 2018, Earl passed away, and truly leaving behind, as you can see, a huge legacy. Also, as a result of the pandemic, we created virtual care and telehealth tools for healthcare providers. So just like in 2016 or 2002 when we did the at-home monitoring, we've now advanced that technology where somebody could implant a device away from the lab. And so if there was a patient with COVID positive, they could actually test the device and be safely outside of the room. So it's been a huge help in this pandemic that we're still currently in. In 2021, in June, Medtronic announced the first patient procedure with a new soft tissue robotic assisted surgery system. This groundbreaking technology is among the ways we are expanding our high-tech capabilities in the world of data science, machine learning, and artificial intelligence. So as you can see, we also have a huge global presence. So across the globe, we're in 150 countries. We have 19 distribution sites, and we are organized into 4 regions. We also have 79 manufacturing sites. So you can see where the pink dots are, where we have headquarter locations. So transforming the lives of patients are what matters most to us. Last year, our technology improved the lives of more than 70 million people around the world. That's 2 people every second of every hour of every day. And being with Medtronic as long as I have been, I can tell you that's something that they even plan to improve. So our technologies improve the lives, or we are projecting by FY25, we will have affected more than 85 million patients' lives with our technologies. One thing that Medtronic is very passionate about is inclusion, diversity, and equity. And I commend what I hear from your school because I love the idea of how diverse it is, because that is something we're very passionate about. And especially when I hear how many female engineers there are, you know, one thing that Medtronic is very passionate about is putting women in leadership positions. And by the end of FY26, we aim to achieve 45% representation of women in management and above roles globally, and 30% representation of people from ethnically diverse groups and managers above roles in the US. So again, extremely passionate about that. And also about protecting our planet. So by FY30, our goal is to be 100% carbon neutral in all of our operations. So when we deliver on our promise, people notice. Recently, Medtronic has been recognized by Catalyst as one of the top corporations driving global change by building workplaces that work for women. Fortune named Medtronic as one of 2021 most admired companies. Diversity Inc., which is a corporate America's leading diversity assessment tool, ranked us as number 11 on this year's list, which is the company's highest ever ranking. And then most recently, we were awarded by Glassdoor the best places to work in 2022. And what's special about this award is it's based on employee feedback. So it gives you a good example of the outstanding culture that Medtronic provides its employees. And these are just a few of the organizations we admire most who have acknowledged our commitment to improving the world. Our people are a big part of that. So I'm fortunate enough to work with some of the brightest minds working at the nexus of 2 exciting industries, healthcare and technology. We have over 90,000 employees. 12,000 of those are scientists and engineers, and 2,000 are clinical researchers and medical scientists. So we have expertise that expands the entire human body. We treat more than 70 conditions in the human body, and our whole portfolio is divided into 4 portfolios: our cardiovascular, our medical surgical, our neuroscience, and our diabetes. Honestly, there really isn't a human or a body part that we haven't tried to make better or treat. What I'm going to touch on, because this is the portfolio that we reside in, is the cardiovascular portfolio. So our division is the cardiac ablation solutions, but under the umbrella of cardiovascular, you'll also find the cardiac rhythm management division, which is the pacing division, cardiac surgery, cardiovascular diagnostics and services, coronary and renal denervation, mechanical circulatory support, peripheral vascular health, and structural heart and aortic. So before I move on to the next section, I just want to make sure, answer any questions that anybody might have at this point. Or Ben, you might be able to tell me if anyone had questions. Okay.
I don't see any in the chat. If you all want to raise your hands really quick if you're going to start typing or anything. Oh, we do have one from Renee.
Okay. Hopefully I can answer it, because I am not of an engineer background, so I'll answer the best I can.
Hi, I have a question.
Yeah.
How is ultrasound? Is ultrasound like a component of Medtronic? Is there focus on ultrasound technology in any?
We do not. We
aspect of
do
it?
not have an ultrasound technology. We would love that. I mean, that's something I feel like in our division, we in our procedures, we use a form of that, but no, we do not.
Okay, thank you.
Good question.
We do. I do want to point out, though, Jessica, to Renee, that we do utilize in our procedures ultrasound. That is there are a couple different companies that provide ultrasound equipment and technology during our procedures. So we are lucky to have that as part of the procedure, even though we can't provide it through Medtronic.
Yep, absolutely. Good point.
Okay, thank you.
Is any other questions for now? Okay.
Okay. So that means y'all were so blown away by everything, and I explained it so well. There's no questions, but let's move on to the reason that we're all here. We are presenting to you our first, at least in our division, ACE internship program. ACE stands for Associate Clinical Experience. So I want to give you an insight of what this internship is and what it is not, so that you have a clear understanding before you reach out to Ben or whoever, and make sure that this is something that fits your career goals. So this is a field-based program. You will work alongside our CAS team. They're talented, they're diverse professionals, and you will partner with them. You will be designated a field mentor as you go through this program. You will bring our mission to life. Like, as I said, we're very passionate about it, and we will make sure that our intern sees the value in that and feels the passion too. So what this program is we are building off of an already established internship program in our cardiac rhythm management division. So the pacing division has been doing this internship for 6 years. So with their guidance, we are bringing this over into our division for the first time. What's great about this is they have 80 to 90% diversity in their interns. Once an intern graduates and they have the option of going into a full-time role, into the associate CS role. In the 6 years that they've been doing this program, every single individual that has gone from the internship into a CS role is still at Medtronic. So that's pretty outstanding. And again, this is ultimately for you to become a full-time employee of Medtronic after graduation. So what's really important that I need to touch on is what this internship is not, because this is not a 9-to-5 position. If you are someone that thrives in organized time and you need to know, where you're going to be the next hour, this is not for you. We have no set schedule. So our procedures are hospital-based, and we run off of the electrophysiology lab schedule. So, you know, we might be working really late, really early. We might travel to accounts. This also is not a research and product development internship. You will not have the opportunity in this internship to develop a product or research a product. And this is not in a lab setting. So I say that because what's really important is for you to know that you will be interacting with physicians, lab staff, your local team, a lot of people. So if you are someone that likes to be in a lab setting and doesn't really want to interact with others, this would not be an opportunity you would want to apply for. We also do not want someone that's interested in going into grad school or med school post-graduation, because like I said, this is an opportunity for us to bring on a full-time employee. So that's really important to mention. And then we also need someone that has reliable transportation, because you will be driving around to all of the different accounts. Specifically in Dallas, that's the territory that I worked in as a CS. We have 20 some odd accounts in this area. And so you will be required to drive to all of those accounts. This is not for a non-US citizen at this time. Because of COVID, we have had issues with getting work visas. And so at this time, and until everything gets worked out, you have to have US citizenship. And then last, but definitely not least, you have to be able to stand the sight and the smell of blood, because you are in procedures where you will possibly see blood. So if you faint at the sight of it, this probably is not what you want to go into. And then I wanted to give you a little overview on the program structure. Stage 1 is where we're at right now, the candidate selection. And our timeline, we're looking at January, hopefully being done by March. What we are looking for in the candidates, and ultimately the candidate that we select, is technical competence. That's why we've selected the biomedical engineering program. You need to be completing your junior year and still have 1 year remaining in school. Strong communication. Like I said, you are the face of our company in these procedures, and you have to be able to communicate well and let us know what we can do, and communicate with the physicians. You need to be self-motivated. Strong emotional intelligence is huge in these day and age, and strong learning agility. Relocatable within the United States. So even though this internship is going to be located in Dallas, once you graduate, if there is not a position open in the Dallas area, if you are willing to relocate anywhere in the United States, the possibilities are endless. So that's one thing to consider. And then we really want highly engaged, involved engineering students. It's an added bonus if you have had a job before, if you volunteer. All of those things are really good attributes to have to a successful internship. In stage 2 is the summer associate program. So when you are done with finals, hopefully about May, until when you start back up in the fall, stage 2 is about a 12-week length where we would hire you as a contract employee for 40 hours per week. You would shadow and learn from the local teams here and the field mentor that I discussed earlier that you would be designated with. You would work weekly with the local teams, so that might include calls, in-person meetings, and then you're also going to have virtual calls with our training and education team. So you will be starting at the same time as 7 other individuals from 7 other universities across the United States. So all 8 of you will be starting together. You will have touch points with this group of cohorts, and it'll be a very robust training program for you all. Stage 3 is when you enter into your senior year. We would still like someone that can commit, if not a full day a week, at least 4 to 6 hours to getting back out in the field, observing cases with the local team, and also doing online work to progress the education for our team. And at the end, before you graduate, a capstone presentation to regional leadership and local team of the topic of your choice. So I know in your senior year, you're doing a capstone presentation. So you don't have to recreate the wheel. If that's something that you're passionate about and that's something that you want to present to the local team, what we are looking for is emphasis on how someone communicates, how they present. And those are very, very important things for us when you're out in the field. You will continue throughout your senior year to routinely meet with the local team and the management and the field trainers. And then ultimately, upon graduation, apply for a associate CS role. And that senior year is still paid. The hours that you work, you're still getting paid for that. So this is just a quick overview of kind of the timeline that Alexis and I are looking at. You know, right now we're doing our little information session, and next week, and we still have to get the details figured out with Ben, but we've done a handshake posting, and this is the number. And so next week we would like to get the resumes. The week of February 7th through the 11th, we are going to look at doing round 1 interviews, hopefully in person, but if we're still in this situation, we will start out virtual. Round 2 would be the following week, and round 3 more than likely for the interns that we are looking at here, the intern. You would be interviewing with the local account managers. There's 2 sales reps, we call them account managers, for the Dallas and surrounding territories. And they are both biomedical engineering grads, and you would be working closely with them. So their opinion is very important. So that would probably be round 3 for you guys. The final intern will be selected that final week of February. And then everybody that submitted a resume or was interviewed will be contacted by March 4th. And so these are just some quotes that from the CRMs interns that they've had, and you can just see the participants' comments are very positive, and everybody has had nothing but positive feedback about the internship program. And these are 3 individuals that are graduates of the CRM ACE internship program. And you can see California, Miami, I don't know where Marquette is, I should, but all diverse and great individuals and flourishing in their new roles as a clinical specialist with Medtronic. So what I wanted to touch on a little bit is, what does an associate CS role look like? You know, I've explained the internship program, but I will real quick, the picture that is on this slide is actually the viewpoint that someone in our field sees. We're behind the physician, we're looking at the monitors and what's going on. So you are representing Medtronic during these ablation procedures. You're providing clinical support and technical support. You're also providing educational support and sales support. One thing that I have to note is you're never alone. Your entire internship, you are with somebody. You're always accompanied by a CAS team member or your mentor. So as far as educational support, that has a couple different meanings in our world. You educate the hospital accounts, the lab staff, the physician on our technology, our procedures. You also are responsible for training new hires. That's one thing that I really am passionate about, because it develops you and your teaching skills, and you know, creates really good culture when you've met people. And then sales support. So you are technically an extension of a sales representative. You're not the salesperson, but you're having the same conversations, you're delivering messaging, and that's why we really ask for strong communication skills, because you are, again, the face of our product and of Medtronic. So we are very passionate about making sure messaging is consistent and you're comfortable speaking up when necessary. So travel is a big part of a CS role. For a CS, a full-time CS, that could be an entire region. And the region that Texas is in, that Alexis leads, is 10 states. So that's pretty big travel. The intern itself is responsible for traveling about a 3-hour radius. So you might do some case observations in Waco, in Tyler. You know, it's all drivable, but it's a drive. So, and then a day in the life. So I always say that a clinical specialist's role is 60% case coverage. So what do you do the other 40% of the time? You know, outside of the lab, that 40% could consist of driving time. As a CS, it could be flying time. Educational opportunities. Like I said, we are constantly finding ways to educate the lab and the physician. Regional and corporate training. Credentialing is something that is required, and as an intern, you would have to get credentialed to go into the hospitals. And with everything that's going on with COVID, it's a little bit more strict, but that is something you have to have all of your shots. And unfortunately, in today's society, that does mean you have to have your COVID vaccine. Expenses is something that we are very diligent about keeping up with. Stretch projects, you know, is there something that you've identified that needs improvement or that you see could really help the team? Case schedules. So usually one person on each team is responsible for delegating where everybody's going and inputting case appointments into the calendar and time management. Because as you can imagine, you can't do any of this if you don't know how to manage time very well. When you're in a case, there's several things that you are responsible for. You show up before the case starts. You check supplies. Our cryo console, it works off of a cryo tank. You want to make sure that the tank has enough weight in it to do a procedure. So there's a lot of checks and balances before that procedure begins. Communicating with the lab staff, observing product preparation. So we are responsible for our product that is going into the patient's body. So what they do on the table before it goes into the body, we are very, very diligent about making sure that everything is done appropriately for the patient's safety. Educating lab, and you work alongside other vendors. So, you know, our system, you might see 1 or 2 other vendors from other companies. So it's great. You optimize the patient outcome in doing that. And troubleshooting. Sometimes the hardest part of our job is troubleshooting when things start going wrong. But that's kind of what the day in the life of a clinical specialist looks like. And before I pass it over to Alexis to go into the product portfolio, I just wanted to see if there's any questions.
We've had several pop up in the chat.
Okay, let me see if I can answer them.
All right, thanks. Starting with the first one from Ellie. Is it possible to do this program if you only have 1 semester left until graduation after the internship? So if they're graduating in December?
That is a really good question. I do not know. I can't imagine that that would be a problem. So what I will do is I'm going to take that question and ask the division that's been doing this for 6 years if they've taken a December graduation, and then I will get that answer to you by Monday.
Perfect. I'll pass it on. Another question from Kevon. How can they connect through either LinkedIn or by email?
Connect to like
Kevon, is that just connecting? Yeah, is that connecting with individuals or about further information?
Connecting with individuals like the staff here or the HR.
I don't know if I understand the question. I mean, if you want to connect with Alexis and I, we're absolutely on LinkedIn. Ben, you are more than welcome to share our emails, and I can, if there's any questions after this presentation, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Excellent. Okay. Another question from Saman. What does a clinical specialist do? But I think you answered that one already, so I think we're good there. Iman, can you explain the advantages of cryo balloon ablation versus a regular ablation procedure?
Good question. And I'm going to pass that on to Alexis when she discusses our portfolio.
Yeah, we'll go over that a little bit with this next section. Okay. Any other questions, Ben, in there? I think I answered one.
You did. Can sophomores apply for this? Thinking that was
no, they cannot, but you can next year. I mean, we're hoping to take more than one next year. So keep us. And also I will say next year we are hoping to recruit earlier than January.
Excellent. And then one question left. Are interns reimbursed for their mileage and is the driving time paid?
Yes, you are reimbursed. You will be what we consider a contract employee through Medtronic, and we have a third-party company that handles all of your expenses. So your mileage, or if for some reason you had a meal or something that needed to be expensed, then yes.
Nice. Okay, I think that, excuse me, I think that catches us up.
All right, awesome. Well, I'm going to pass it.
One more just slipped right in. Sorry.
Okay. No worries.
What are some of the responsibilities that interns are given?
Well, I will tell you the number one responsibility is to dive into all of your training and education because there's going to be a lot. So we, right now, the program is going to be looking at complementing the electrophysiology knowledge that you need at the same time of probably doing a little bit of emotional intelligence growth and professional development. So that is going to be your number one priority, honestly.
That was from Juliana. And maybe I should say, are there any more questions before we move on? Yeah, not seeing any. I think we're good.
All right.
All right, this is Alexis, everybody.
Sorry, Alexis.
Weren't on the call at the beginning. That's okay. Jessica and I wanted to go over a few of the products from the Cardiac Ablation Solutions portfolio. In the CAS operating unit of Medtronic, we have a passion for helping correct arrhythmias or abnormal rhythms of the heart through cardiac ablation performed in what's called an electrophysiology lab inside the hospital. It's an interventional room, usually near the cardiac cath lab. Next slide, Jessica. With our first product, the Arctic Front Advance, otherwise known as the Cryo Balloon, this product focuses on atrial fibrillation, a common abnormal rhythm. This product gained FDA approval in the US in 2012 and is pretty much the bread and butter of our business. There are two approaches to Afib management. Cryo approaches a cardiac ablation by freezing the tissue to lessen Afib occurrence or hopefully eliminate it for some patients. And the other approach is with heat, otherwise known as radiofrequency ablation or RF ablation for short. So with those two types, Afib can be treated. You can see with the two images on the right side, the top picture is actually an image of the cryo balloon after getting cold and how it forms an ice cap that within the heart it adheres to tissues to affect Afib. And the image below that is the cryo balloon as what it looks like as it enters into the top chamber of the heart. It goes into position with physician guidance under fluoroscopy. And once it's put into position, there's a freezing that's performed with the end of the catheter. Next slide, Jessica. So atrial fib is a global pandemic, and greater than 60% of Afib patients have symptoms that affect their quality of life. There are different types of Afib treated with ablations and therapy choices with doctors and the choices are usually based on the frequency and the type of symptoms for each patient. You have patients that are in and out of Afib called paroxysmal atrial fibrillation, or those that are always in Afib called persistent Afib. And through extended clinical and research evidence, and well over 1 million patients treated with cryoballoon ablation, the indications continue to grow for not only persistent patients, that we got indication for treating people that are always in AFib, and we also got a first-line therapy indication. And basically, for first-line therapy, this is the therapy of choice over starting a patient on drugs first, because in all the years, usually you had to fail drugs in order to get an AFib ablation. Insurance wouldn't pay for it. Now it can be the therapy choice to see how patients do, because most drugs cause symptoms for patients as well. Next slide, Jessica. So this is the image of the cryoablation system, showing the cryo console that operates the temperature of the cryo balloon. It drops the temperature, and then you can see all the system components along with a catheter that goes into the patient's body, and it's actually removed at the end of the ablation procedure. As you can see, there's just minimal connections. There's a tank that actually provides a nitrous oxide that cools the balloon tip, and other hoses and things that actually connect to the hospital system in order for it to do its job. There's not a lot to this system, and it hasn't changed much through the years. There are some things that will happen in the future, but the system is quite reliable, and it does an incredible job for patients with cryoballoon therapy. Next slide. So the diamond tip ablation catheter is also something you will see as an intern. And this was an acquisition that was made by Medtronic, and we gained commercial use of this radio frequency catheter late last year. As I noted earlier, this catheter with RF delivers heat from the tip of the catheter to eliminate or ablate rhythms. Next slide. So Cardiac Ablation Solutions is thrilled to have this technology in our portfolio for Afib management. We've always operated under the cryoballoon therapy, and since it was actually Afib Solutions in its early days. And as we've progressed and started to treat more and started to get more technology within Medtronic's product portfolio, we got the diamond tip catheter. And it allowed us to provide RF therapy to patients for the first time. This is the image of the diamond tip catheter and some of the nuances that this catheter brings to the market with RF technology. There is no RF catheter like it. Next slide, please. And here are the components of the diamond tip ablation system, or what it takes to actually run the diamond tip therapy. The generator, actually on the right side, the larger picture, the generator drives the power to deliver and actually modulate the power in watts to achieve a set temperature. This affects the rhythm as they ablate inside the chamber. And the pump shown on the left is just connected to allow fluid to flow throughout the catheter during the ablation procedure. So most RF catheters, radio frequency heat delivered catheters, need fluid to provide a cooling effect to the tip of the tissue. This catheter is different from others, so we operated a lower cool rate for our fluid rate, but it is something that we just started getting in some of our accounts. We're excited to use it, and it's an amazing catheter to have in our pocket. Next slide, Jessica. So the last product I wanted to mention is the Cardio Insight system. Next slide. The CIT system, otherwise known as CIT, was purchased in 2015, and it was launched for U.S. commercial use in 2017. This is covered by a different clinical team called Mappers, but we wanted to mention it. The use of the system allows an external vest to be placed on the patient prior to an ablation. And they actually put themselves, the mapping vest is put onto the patient, and they're able to look at arrhythmias prior to ablation before they're under anesthesia. With mapping out arrhythmias with these 252 electrodes, it provides rhythm information and the doctor can actually locate where rhythm is coming from prior to putting them on the table. This isn't something that an intern will be a part of. We do have set clinical support and a team specifically for the CIT, but it is something you'll hear about and be some of the counts. There is one in Dallas actually as well. I think, Jessica, this is the end of the small overview of our CAS products portfolio, but we would love to hear any questions at this time.
Any more questions? Any new questions?
Did I answer the question about the types of ablation? Heat versus cold?
Iman, did you have any other questions on that? You said yes, you did. Thank you.
Great.
All right, Ritika, I see a hand up.
Yeah, so I was just curious about if you can recall like what a specific situation or scenario that an intern has been in and like what they like exactly worked on in that case.
So situation within a case or within what specifically?
Like just any specific situation that you can recall that an intern has been in and like what exactly they did in that situation.
So Jessica, I don't know if you had any exposure to any CRM interns while you were up in Dallas. I have not had any intern exposure with cases down in the Austin area, which is where I'm located.
Yeah, I can't speak to that because I haven't had interaction with one of our interns, but I have, you know, in our industry, there's other companies that do internships, very similar internships. But I can't really think of a situation with an intern, and I don't know. We have other team members on the call if they have any input. But I don't know anything. I'm sorry, I didn't answer your question very well.
Most of the interns, not necessarily in regards to a specific situation, but most of the interns will have a person for the time they are actually able to put in the time as a CAS ACE associate or intern, you know, that week. They'll contact the teams. The teams will give them heads up on what the day looks like tomorrow, what they think it looks like, because things are fluid and changing. They will have a contact that will let them know where to meet them, what the plan is. They will give them information throughout the procedure, how to get in a hospital, who they're dealing with, what type of patient that you're treating that day for that specific case or procedure. And you may see 2 people in one day, depending on the amount of time that you're working, or you may just see one person for that week and kind of be their shadow, soaking up, just like Jessica said, as much as you can during the procedure, during training, during asking questions. There's all kinds of things to learn that are not just in the case or procedure itself.
Okay, we have another question from Daniel. What challenges do most interns frequently face in this position?
I mean, what I have seen and experienced, and I don't think it's just interns, I think it's just coming into Medtronic and this being your first professional job, the biggest, most difficult transition, I believe, is just being in corporate America. And also being in a setting when you're working with an electrophysiology, which is a very, very, very intelligent physician. And you have to know how to read a room. You have to learn when to speak up, when not to speak up. You have to build your confidence. So I think that's really the biggest piece, the professional development. You know, I have no doubt that you all could master the technology piece of it. Sometimes it's just that it's your first job, you know, knowing how to act and not act. And those are the biggest challenges I see. Alexis?
I haven't been around. There is an intern actually in Austin that just started recently. that I just pass her in the hallways because we pass a lot of the Medtronic teams, especially on the cardiac side for the devices in the lab setting. And I think probably just balancing y'all are all bright, evident, there's no question on that. But following what there's done daily in so many different scenarios among so many, different physicians and different, reading the room. Probably the biggest challenge is just, if you're smart, usually you've got your studies underway and you just have to balance not only doing that, but learning the technology and with this part of the business as well. So probably the balancing of both school and this new pretty much industry job. I mean, that's what we're shooting for, right? If you're going to get into this and you think this could be your passion. The individual that I see in the hallway seems to have a smile on her face and enjoying. She's following around a clinical team member and just kind of, like I said, a shadow in everything they do.
Okay, we have a question from Sanjay. Is Medtronic working on dual chamber leadless pacemaking solutions? Just out of curiosity.
Good question.
Yes. I mean, I'm pretty sure they've got the AV Micra. I don't know if it's like out right now, but I know it's been discussed. So I'm not as close to that as I used to be, but it is amazing technology for sure. But yeah, I know if it's not out already, it is being worked on.
Nice. Okay. He says thank you. Any further questions then? Oh, here we go. Sorry.
I was going to say, I was kind of looking through the chat because I didn't have a chance to look at it, but I was someone's question about other opportunities within Medtronic, and I know that if you're looking for research and development, the research and development of Medtronic has really started doing a lot of the product fairs. I took part in one of those a few months ago, and that is where they set up interviews and recruiting from there. And I think that's usually done in the early part of the year. So November is when I took part in it. But I will, if I hear of anything, I'll let Ben know.
Awesome. So there was I think related to probably what you were just saying, do you know if Medtronic's neural department has any internship programs in Dallas?
They do not. That is something that I think we're kind of paving the way for copying what our counterparts have done and doing in other divisions. So I know that they have talked about it, but it's still in the very early phases.
Okay. And Parab was asking, what's the timeline of the internship? I don't know if you have that slide handy there.
Yes. Let me. So the timeline of like the interviewing piece of it.
Prav, is that for which part were you interested in about that? Yes. The
Okay.
timeline of the interviewing and all that.
Let me pull that up and I'll show you that timeline again. Can you see this okay?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. User error. Sorry, let me redo that. There we go.
Awesome. And that the handshake post is available now. So if anybody were to go in and search for Medtronic, CAS or anything like that, it should come up. Or if they use the posting number, they should be able to find it that way as well. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Well, it is shortly after 1, so I think we're pretty much right on time.
Awesome.
So thank you all very much.
Thank you guys for setting this up and all of you that joined. And if you need anything, you just let us know.
Thank you, Ben.
Perfect.
And everybody.
Yeah, thank you. I don't have my video on, I'm sorry. Yeah, thank you.
Nice to see you.
You as well. Yeah.
See.
Nice
Thanks
meeting you
for-
face to face.
And we will be collecting all of the resumes next week off of Handshake. So we can send you something, Ben, that you can just send out and remind everybody
Perfect.
of what we're going to do. So, all right. I look forward to working with you guys.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you. Have a good remainder of the week. Weekend.
You too.
All right.